Hi everybody, welcome back to the Live Well podcast. Thanks for being here for episode 3. I'm your host, Liv Brand, and today we are talking about wellness without the overwhelm. So we're going to be talking about the foundational lifestyle habits that support long-term health through nutrition and sleep and stress management. We're going to look at the pillars of lifestyle medicine, and we're going to be looking at the small repeatable habits that build wellness and long-term health over anything that has to do with perfection. So I would love to just start by kind of how we always do with a couple questions to reflect upon. Have you ever felt like you're trying to balance nutrition, workouts, sleep, stress, hydration, hormones all at once and trying to do everything perfectly? I know I have definitely felt that way. Or have you ever felt overwhelmed by all the wellness advice that exists out in the world and especially the internet? Or have you ever wondered why your healthy habits feel so hard to maintain and just kind of wondered what actually matters when it comes down to building a healthy life holistically? Well, wellness can feel overwhelming because we often think that we have to do everything perfectly, but real health isn't built through extreme routines like we talked about last week. It's built through everyday habits. So today we're talking about what actually matters for long-term wellness in the realm of holistic health and how to make healthy habits fit into your real life. So what are the lifestyle habits that truly support long-term health? Let's start there. We're going to be going over what actually matters, and through this we're doing the pillars of lifestyle medicine. Now this comes from the ACLM, or American College of Lifestyle Medicine's 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine. These are the foundational things that make up holistic health. And when women think of wellness, they often think more discipline, harder workouts, restrictive eating, expensive supplements. Like this is the only way that I'm going to be able to reach my goals, by going in as hard as I can for a short amount of time and then getting there and then being done. That's not how it works. Our health and wellness is a journey. There's going to be times where it's at its peak. There's going to be times where it's maybe lower. There's going to be times where we're really happy where we're at or we're frustrated where we're at. And that's just part of the fitness and health journey. But long-term wellness just comes back to the basics. So these basics for the pillars, we got 6 of them. We got nutrition, sleep quality, stress management, physical activity, social connection, and avoidance of risky substances. So nutrition, what we're putting in our body, how is it fueling us? Are we fueling ourselves with the right and the proper things, or are we eating whatever we want and not considering our health with that? Sleep quality, I love the topic of sleep quality. It's so interesting, and I would love to do another episode about it because I took a course for the board review for the ACLM board review to be board certified for lifestyle medicine. And there's a whole section obviously on sleep quality, as it is one of the pillars. And there's just so many nuances with sleep quality and how to get proper sleep and how to increase your sleep health and your sleep hygiene and your sleep quality, because they're all slightly different, which is super interesting. But I think sleep has become more and more important in at least how people talk about it, and understanding that you're never going to get where you're at if you're not sleeping well enough. If you're not getting enough hours of sleep every night, you're not having consistent sleep, it's going to only deteriorate your health long term. And I think that's so important. I'm really glad that it's coming more and more out. But so there's sleep quality. Next is stress management. So stress is not inherently negative. Stress is just a demand on the body. So it's when we have that negative perception of the demand is when it becomes what we know as stress. And stress management, how are we dealing with it? Are we dealing with it? Is it taking a physical toll on your body? Is it taking a mental toll on your body? How are you navigating the stressors in your life to prevent negative or mental and physical tolls? Physical activity, are you getting your aerobic, your anaerobic exercises? Are you strength training? So that's when we talk about physical activity, just making sure we're not being sedentary, we're having a physical lifestyle. And then social connection, what does your relationships look like? Do you have a healthy support system? Do you have good friends that you're able to hang out with and talk with? Are you getting out? Are you talking to people? Again, making sure, this is what I love about, we did a lot of research for group workouts, like exercise classes, and I love that it kind of hits a couple birds with one stone, because you get your physical activity. It's a great form of stress management. You get your social connection. You get to bond with the people in your class. I love it. But yeah, social connection with your husband, with your boyfriend, with your friends. Like, what does that look like? Is it healthy? Is it contributing to your overall health, or is it taking away? And then avoidance of risky substances, making sure we're not being over-dependent on anything like alcohol, we're not using tobacco, drugs, stuff like that. So those are the 6 pillars, and they're all interconnected. This is like one of the coolest things about holistic health, is looking at the body as a whole. Everything is connected to one another, your mind, your body, everything. So if you're not getting enough sleep, it's going to affect everything in your body. You're going to get worse cravings, you're going to get higher stress, you're going to get lower energy. If you are experiencing chronic stress, you're going to get disruption in your hormones regulation, you're going to get increased inflammation, increased fatigue. If you are under eating, you're not caring for your nutrition, you're going to have poor recovery, you're going to have low energy. Everything is connected to one another. So we're going to look into a few of the pillars and just kind of dive in and go over some basics for busy life and some practical strategies, starting off with nutrition. So healthy eating doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be restrictive. It doesn't need to be time consuming. It should not be taking all of your brain energy. It should not be taking all of your time to like meal prep for the week, or like making your grocery list or whatever. And it shouldn't be all consuming. I have had it where it's all consuming, and it takes more of a toll on your health than it helps every single time. So with nutrition, we want to focus on adding over restricting. This is prioritizing protein at meals, fiber-rich foods, whole foods, prioritizing having balanced meals, making sure you have fat, carbs, protein, vegetables, fruits. Focusing on hydration, making sure you're drinking enough water throughout the day, and then also having regular meals. We want to make sure that we're not skipping meals or kind of eating irregularly throughout the day. Of course, there are days where you're not going to hit, like, again, you don't want to overcomplicate it. You don't want to have a specific time where you're like, I need to have breakfast between 8 and 9 and then lunch between 12 and 1, or else like whatever. Like, we want to make sure that we're not skipping meals, right? We want to have regular meals, but it doesn't have to be something that's all or nothing, that you have to get your meal in at this specific time or your whole day is ruined. That takes away from your health rather than adding to it. There was a study done over skipping meals, and the conclusions basically was skipping meals, particularly dinner, reduces your daily energy intake, right? You're not fueling yourself enough, and it leads to a reduction in your daily diet quality. So if you're not, especially dinner is usually packed with a lot of protein, a lot of fiber, you get a lot of veggies, carbs for your energy. Dinner is my favorite meal of the day, and it's also just like a big meal. Like, you get so much energy, you get so much recovery from the day through that dinner. So skipping it, you're missing out on so many nutrients, on so much protein. And then it also found that particularly skipping breakfast has a huge impact, a huge negative impact on your health over time. So it also decreases your daily diet quality. It has a negative impact over time. Skipping breakfast is a precursor for a lot of diseases, actually, like metabolic syndrome, and I could go on. But they say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and it's because it's true. I know it's hard sometimes for people to eat breakfast in the mornings, like you're not hungry or whatever, but just having something. Just have something, because it does way more for your health than you could ever imagine or feel, honestly, in the moment. So some practical strategies for these things: protein at meals. And we talk about protein. Protein has been so emphasized in today, which I find very interesting. It's like the new like low fat, I feel like is like high protein. And don't get me wrong, protein is so important. It is the main building block for your muscles. It provides a little bit of energy, but mainly it's just a huge builder in your body, and it's really important if you're trying to get stronger. It's important for satiety. It keeps you full. But we want to make sure that we're having high quality proteins. Of course, convenient foods can be so helpful and support your health, like protein bars, whatever, if you want to. If like you don't eat breakfast in the morning and you go to Starbucks to get your coffee and you want to get like the protein coffee, like that's great. Add some protein in your mornings. But we don't want these foods to be like our only source of protein. We want to make sure we're getting high quality protein, high quality meats through chicken, turkey, salmon, grass-fed and finished beef, or even plant proteins like, oh my gosh, legumes. There we go. I could only think of the word beans. I'm like, there's so much more. Legumes. Building plant proteins, like having rice and beans, makes a complete protein. There's just so many options for high quality proteins that we don't want to immediately resort to just kind of convenient foods. But don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with having convenient foods to contribute to your goals. We've got protein bars and protein powder and everything in our cabinets right now. It's but I think it's just crazy how like the proteinization, is that a word? I just think it's crazy how there's so much, like everything has a protein version now. Like we were in the store the other day and they were giving out samples of protein like popcorners, like the little chips protein version. I'm like, this is just crazy. Like it's everywhere and it is important, but it's not everything. We want to make sure that we're also having fiber. Fiber is huge. Fiber you find in your fruits and veggies. If you're eating your daily recommended intake of fruits and veggies every day, which I believe is it 4 servings? About 5 servings, yeah. So it's like 5 servings of fruits and veggies a day is recommended. If you're eating that, you're probably hitting your fiber. But of course, fiber in more beans, legumes, chia seeds, oats, like, which are also forms of protein, like oats is a great plant protein. Making sure we have a balance of those, because fiber is what keeps things moving through your body. So adding fiber into your diet is going to be also a great tool. So adding protein, adding fiber, having whole foods. So when I grocery shop, first thing I do is walk the perimeter, because that's where most of your whole foods are going to be. And you don't have to be shopping at Whole Foods or Sprouts or like natural groceries or like any of these high-end natural grocery stores. Don't get me wrong, I literally love Whole Foods and Sprouts. Those are like my favorite place to go grocery shopping, just because it just feels so like clean and healthy in there, and I love it. But you don't have to by any means. Like right now, it is not in our budget to be shopping at those grocery stores. And so there's a Ralph's that's literally in our neighborhood that we walk to, and I find all our groceries there and we still have great healthy meals. So I walk the perimeter of the grocery store, make sure I get my veggies, my meats are on the perimeter, the dairy like cheeses and milk and whatever. I stick to that, and then if I have everything, then it's easy for me to go. But if we want a snack for the week, or we want to get more protein bars or chips or whatever, then we'll go through the aisles and kind of pick out a few things. But sticking mainly to whole foods is a great tip. It'll make you feel so much clearer. It'll just give your body so much more energy through nutrient-dense foods, rather than the stuff on the insides are more energy-dense. So you see just higher calories, higher sugars, higher processed. So sticking to whole foods. And then balanced meals, making sure that we've got that protein, that fiber, carbs, fats, all in one. Hydration, obviously drinking water, and then we talked about the regular meals. But sorry, I kind of just jumped over all the place. But moving now on to our practical strategies is, first, don't overcomplicate it. It doesn't have to be super complicated. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just find what works for you. And again, it's not about restricting. You don't have to take away the things that you enjoy. It's more about adding to make it maybe more balanced, or instead of just having like a naked carb. And a naked carb is just like simple, refined carb eaten alone without fat, fiber, or protein. So they digest super quickly, and they give a big blood sugar spike, which is great for when you're going to work out, but it can just be followed by a crash that causes just more hunger and higher cravings versus just keeping yourself fuller throughout the day if that's something you're looking for. So that's, yeah, like bread, rice by itself versus adding in rice and beans, rice and chicken, or bread with meat, like whatever. Just dressing up your carbs. I don't know really why I started to go. I really don't remember how I got there. I'm not gonna lie. But don't overcomplicate it. Second is learning the meal prep basics. So finding, again, what works for you. Some people love, like when I lived alone, I loved to get a big thing of meat, and I'd have like my bag of veggies, and I'd cook the meat all at once, and then I would add it to different veggies or whatever and reheat it throughout the week, and I loved that. And I'm someone that could literally eat the same thing every single day, and often I do, but I know some people don't love reheated food or eating the same thing every day. That's fine. Like if you just want to have, maybe when you take your veggies home from the store, we all have had it where you get like a cucumber or whatever and you put it in a little bag, and then you take it home, and when you're unloading your groceries, you put it in the fridge, and then like you never open the bag and it just rots there, or like lettuce leaves or whatever. Some meal prep basic would literally be taking 2 minutes to just like chop it up. I love to chop up my strawberries. I love to rinse my blueberries, put them in a bowl, chop up my cucumbers, whatever, just so that it makes it so much more convenient. It's ready, it's prepped for me to just like throw in a bag for lunch, to take it to work, or to snack on throughout the day. Just makes it so much easier. So it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be making these perfectly curated meals for like breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the week. Just little basics that maybe help you. And if that doesn't help you, then you don't have to do it. Don't overcomplicate it. Then we've got convenient foods can support your health. So like I said earlier, if you are like, this happened to me yesterday actually. I was running out the door, and like I wasn't hungry until all of a sudden I was, and I was like, shoot, I don't have time to get a lunch or to make a lunch, but I know and it was 11, so like I know if I leave, I wasn't gonna be able to eat for like a couple hours, and so I just grabbed a protein bar and I ate it in the car, and it was really good, and it kept me full until I was hungry for lunch later in the day when I could actually eat lunch. So convenient foods can definitely support health. It's not all that we want to lean on. We don't want to only have packaged foods and frozen meals for every single meal of the day, but they are definitely helpful. And you don't have to convince yourself that it's okay to have something, or that, or like if you're craving it. Like sometimes I just love, like I crave a protein bar, and I see videos of like, it's like trying to finish the last few bites of a protein bar, starting it and you're all happy, and then like trying to finish it and it's disgusting. Could not be me. I literally love protein bars. I could eat like 5 a day. But anyways, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be like, oh, I could have a protein bar, but it would be so much better if I had like this leftover chicken and an apple, or if I just ate these carrots. It's like, no, it's fine. Your protein bar can completely support your health goals. Next is frozen vegetables count. Even like I said, you get vegetables and they just rot in your fridge because you don't use them fast enough. It's totally okay for your vegetables not to be fresh all the time. You can buy, especially something that you're using constantly for dinner, or like you have one meal that you love to use this vegetable for, buy a bag of it and freeze it, or buy a frozen bag of it and freeze it. You still get your nutrients, you still get your fiber, they still count. And then the last strategy that, again, worked for me is batch cooking your proteins. Again, I know some people don't like that. My husband hates, like, reheated protein, which is fine. I don't care, but it saves time, and it just makes it easier to be able to grab something from the fridge and heat it up with rice and vegetables or whatever, and you've got your meal. So it doesn't have to be super complicated. It doesn't have to be overly planned. There's just some good strategies there. All right, our discussion questions. First, we got, why do women struggle with consistency around nutrition? And I think this ties back to what we talked about last week with that all or nothing mentality. It's so easy to fall into that, especially with everything that's being put in our heads all the time. I mean, there's nuances everywhere, and there's especially if you've struggled with it before, it's so easy to just kind of hear something and you kind of feel like a stab to the heart and you're like, oh shoot. Or you're not happy with the way you look right now, and it's so easy to go into that all or nothing, being like, all right, tomorrow, throwing away all the junk food, it's only vegetables, it's only protein, no more carbs, no more sugar, whatever. It's so easy to slip into that all or nothing mentality because we think that it's going to get our result quicker, when in reality, it's going to last maybe a couple weeks at the most if you're really dedicated, and then you're going to spiral and you're going to just start all over again, and it's just going to damage your mental health, it's going to damage your gut, it's going to create distrust in your body because your body's not going to know when it's going to get its next carb, which literally provides our brains and our bodies with energy. So I think the constant message of like go harder, more discipline, whatever, can make it really hard to stick to consistency around nutrition. And even in our own brains, like it's always a battle. And I've actually, in a couple weeks, I've got an expert guest coming to talk about nutrition, and we will dive straight into it, and we're not going to hold back. It's going to be a very vulnerable conversation, and it's going to have a lot of great science about nutrition and everything, but also just some honest conversation, which will be really great. But the next question is, what makes eating sustainably difficult? And I think, honestly, same idea, just that all or nothing mindset of I have to always have this fresh protein, this fresh vegetable, instead of giving yourself a break. Like, just instead of having grace with yourself, trying to force yourself into this super rigid routine is only going to end badly. Just to put it that way. An unrealistic expectation around food that women should let go of. That everything has to be perfect. Again, that everything has to be fresh, and your macros have to be perfect, your meals have to be perfectly planned. Like, of course, if that's your goal, like if you are in bodybuilding and you have to eat like a certain thing every day, whatever. But for the majority of women, it could be more harmful to try to stick to these perfect food rules that you create for yourself. There is so much knowledge that we have about nutrition, and there's so much information about nutrition that we have that supports good, healthy eating, healthy nutrition. We have, like that book I mentioned last episode, the Biblio Diet, like so much good information. But from these good messages, we can create more perfect and toxic food rules for ourselves, which just we need to let go of, because I had convinced myself that I was not allowed to eat white rice because it is considered like a naked carb, like it just causes a blood sugar spike, and I was like, I literally can never eat white rice, and I went years without eating white rice, and I love white rice. If you pair it with a protein, it literally balances the spike of blood sugar. Like it's not that deep, but it literally consumed me, and I didn't even realize it. Like, you don't even realize the food rules that you put in place for yourself, the perfection. At least I'm a big perfectionist, and so if something wasn't perfect with my diet, I would literally spiral, and it just had such a chokehold on me. So just letting go that unrealistic expectation that everything has to be perfect and I have to stick perfectly for these rules that I literally made up. Just let it go. Healthy eating should support your life, it shouldn't consume it. Sometimes the healthiest choice for you might be something that's not in the media, quote unquote, healthy. So just finding what works for you. And then I went for a run last night because I just had extra energy and I wanted to get it out. But I had a thought that's like, why would I keep myself from doing, what was it? Oh my gosh, it was actually like I had an epiphany. My husband just landed at the airport and I'm still at home. I'm literally recording a podcast. Oops. Why would I stop myself from doing something that's healthy for me? Because I was thinking like I let myself do the things that feel good, and then I was like, no, because that's sometimes you overindulge and it feels good or whatever. I let myself do the things that are healthy for me. Sometimes that's that's not what normal like picture of health looks like, and that's okay because it contributes to your health at that moment. And there's mental health, there's physical health, there's like our holistic health is so much more than everything being perfect all the time. So anyways, the verse I have for this is one that's often used for nutrition, but it has been a guiding light in my nutrition journey, even when I was in the depths of it. It was always a guiding light. But 1 Corinthians 10:31, so whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. That's it. Is what you're doing glorifying God? That was honestly such a guiding light for me in my journey with nutrition. Okay, next we're talking about sleep recovery and stress management, but first I have to pick my husband up from the airport. Okay, I'm back. The next thing we're going to talk about is sleep recovery and stress management, and these three have a huge overlooked role in our health. So a lot of people treat sleep as something that's optional, but like I said earlier, sleep has become a more talked about subject of importance, which I think is great. But sleep affects so many things. It affects, first off, our hormones. One night of bad sleep can cause insulin resistance, it can elevate stress hormones, and it can trigger an imbalance in appetite regulating chemicals. So ghrelin is the hunger hormone, and a lack of sleep will often elevate that, and it'll suppress leptin, which is the satiety hormone. So it kind of throws those off balance, which leads to increased cravings and energy imbalances. And then the stress hormone, we talk about cortisol, and that is a big buzzword in the media today, is like, oh, don't spike your cortisol. But cortisol is our stress hormone, and it puts us into fight or flight. And a sustained level of high cortisol keeps the body in that fight or flight mode, which it not only just like fries your nervous system, but it leads to anxiety, it leads to holding on to a higher percentage of fat and water as your body's just trying to like calm itself down. And then deep-sleep is really important for our human growth hormone release, which promotes muscle recovery, tissue repair, and metabolism. So sleep deprivation cuts that short, which prevents proper recovery in muscle growth. And then it can also impact fertility and reproductive hormones, because a lack of sleep can disrupt the hypothalamus pituitary axis, which alters our reproductive hormones like estrogen and progesterone. So lack of sleep can disrupt a lot with your hormones, long story short. And then leading from all those, obviously it can throw off our energy levels, our hunger signals, our mood, our recovery, and then lastly, our exercise performance. So if you're an athlete and you're not getting enough sleep, it definitely throws off a lot of that exercise performance. This all comes from the research of showing just what sleep deprivation does to you, and what even just one night of bad sleep can lead to if you're not being careful with that. So I'll put that article also in the description if anyone's interested. If you can tell, I love reading through research articles and just kind of finding different evidence. If you don't like that, you never have to look at them, but I love them, so I'll always put them there. Some practical sleep strategies that I've got for y'all is, one, trying to keep a consistent sleep schedule. This can be hard with different just work schedules, social schedules, especially in the summer when the days are longer and the sun is out longer. It's often a time where you're meeting with more people, you're more energetic, you have more energy to have longer days. It can be hard to find a consistent sleep schedule, but even just finding like a little bit of consistency within your sleep schedule will help a lot. Also, getting some morning sunlight. This is one of my favorite things to do. Within like the first hour of waking up, just being able to go outside, step on the porch, get some sunlight, get some fresh air, and it just starts your day off by not being in AC, not being in like a closed in room with no sunlight. Again, we talk about holistic health, everything is connected to one another, and through that the Lord has designed us to be outside. So getting that sunlight first thing in the morning, that's like one of my favorite parts of my morning routine, is getting stuff started in the morning, and then I grab my coffee, I grab my water, I go outside, and I sit on the porch in the sunlight and read my Bible, and that is the staple of my morning routine. And then after is when my day really starts, and I love that. So, and it helps a lot with being able to wake up and just get a little energy And I find when I'm inside for too long, I just become more and more complacent. Like, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to go outside for my workout. I don't want to go for a walk. But once I step foot literally just outside and feel the sunshine, it's like a whole 180, and I'm like, wait, I actually have a lot of energy. So that morning sunlight helps a ton. And then it just like starts your day off, and it starts your circadian clock. So that when you're in that halfway through that day in the afternoon, again, I recommend going outside again and getting some afternoon sun to kind of regulate that clock, and your body will understand where you're at in the day. And then once the sun starts to set, being able to see that, your body is able to regulate that as timing to be able to go to sleep. And then with that is reducing evening stimulation. So before bed, making sure we're not like scrolling or dimming the lights so that there's not like bright overhead lights. So again, it's that signal for your body to release your melatonin and think, okay, it's time to wind down. And then some strategies for throughout the day that don't have to do with just morning or just night is to get protein and balanced meals throughout the day. So when you're feeding your body or fueling your body properly, it follows that same kind of circadian rhythm of understanding like, okay, I just woke up, I'm gonna eat, it's lunchtime, I'm gonna eat, it's nighttime, I'm gonna have my last meal before I go to bed. And making sure that they're balanced meals, you're not hungry when you're going to bed. Of course, there's a lot of nuances with that, but just making sure that you have some consistency within that will give your body more signals of when it's time to wake up, when it's time to have the most energy, and when it's time to wind down. Moving on to stress, and again, stress and relating that to our hormones. So chronic stress is, excuse me, chronic stress is a high level of stress that is constant, that never goes away. It's chronic. It impacts every single system in your body. And if there's any article that you look at today, I hope it's this one, because it is so interesting and it shows how it affects each system of your body. There's so much information in that article that I really encourage you to read it if you're interested in it. But it can also impact your cortisol regulation. If you're constantly in a high state, that negative feedback loop will never close, and that becomes your new regular. So your body just can't regulate that stress hormone. It leaves you always in that fight or flight stage. Impacts your energy levels. If your body is giving so much energy to your nervous system, you are left with basically no energy for the day. It's hard to be active and move and just do the things you love because your energy is just being shuttled to different places. It can impact your sleep. Again, if you're always in that wired state, it's really difficult. It impacts your cravings, your recovery, and then obviously your hormonal health. Basically, long story short, it affects you physically, it affects you mentally. It's something that needs to be managed. Stress management is a form of healthcare. It's not being lazy. It's not weak. To take care of yourself and your stress in a world especially that emphasizes so much of that busy culture, like constant go, go, go. You have to fill every second of every day or you're being unproductive. In that kind of mindset of the world that we live in right now, it's important to kind of take a step back and understand that you need to care for your stress. You need to be able to manage that because it leads to all of these disruptions in our health. So some strategies for stress management, which ironically is actually engaging healthfully in a lot of the pillars of lifestyle medicine. Strength training, walking, having social support, getting good sleep. And then there's breath work, there's prayer and faith practices, reading your Bible, slowing down, journaling, and then giving yourself time boundaries. So giving yourself a boundary when it comes to time with work, when it comes to family time, being like, I'm going to spend this amount of time with my family. Starting at 6 p.m., I'm not touching my work. I'm just going to hang out with my husband or my family or my boyfriend or whatever. And giving yourself that time to be able to not stress about anything and just enjoy. And not letting those lines be blurred, because that's when your time at home can start to be stressful, and that's something that you obviously want to avoid. So something to reflect on when it comes to stress is thinking about where is stress showing up physically in my life. And if it doesn't, then that's great. But I know that for me, when I'm feeling stressed about something, like I tense up my shoulders and my back, and I can feel it in my lower back almost immediately. And whenever I start to feel like that onset of pain in my lower back, I have to take a breath and actually think about, okay, what's stressing me out right now? What is taking this toll literally physically on my body, where I need to step back, take a breath, maybe just slow down. I understand it's not that deep. Like, you don't have to get super stressed about it. Do some breath work, do some prayer. That's what helps me, at least, is taking deep breaths. I like box method, like four counts in, hold it for four counts out, hold it for four, and then do it again. So breath work, prayer are my two main things, where I'm like, feel it in the moment and I have to stop and slow down and take a breath and figure out what's stressing me out. So maybe it's something different for you, maybe it's the same, maybe you don't feel it physically, but just reflect upon that. Like, where do you feel stress showing up physically in your life, and what are the ways that are going to work best for you to manage that? Next, we're going to go into behavior change and some tips and tricks there. So we're going to talk about some implementation strategies with behavior change. I know we talked about it a little bit last week, but there are so many concepts when it comes to behavior change that it's just, again, one of my favorite things to talk about. But the first concept is going to be habit stacking, and I feel like this is also kind of a popular thing in the media, but it is so great at starting new habits that you want to implement in your life. So habit stacking is pairing a new habit with a habit that you already have that exists in your day-to-day routine. It's basically just tacking on something else to that existing habit. So when you do that existing habit, it reminds you of what you want to start implementing. So some examples of this would maybe be like, if you want to drink more water, like when you make your morning coffee while it's brewing, drink a glass of water, or take your water with you with your coffee. That's what I do, is I fill up my water in the morning and I take my coffee out at the same time, so they're both right in front of me, and that way I can drink my water and drink my coffee at the same time, and I start my morning off with a good bit of water. Or if you want to stretch more, maybe stretching while you're brushing your teeth. It already takes, 2 minutes that you're standing there brushing your teeth, and it's a habit that you hopefully do every day and every night. So just tacking on, like, while you're standing there, seeing what feels good, just stretching out your legs, stretching your arms, your back, and adding some mobility into your day, into the morning and the night is really great. Or maybe every night after you eat dinner, you go for a short walk around the neighborhood, like literally 5 minutes or whatever. And then you can always build upon it as you start to implement it in your life. There's a book called Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg. And the essence of the book is you take a behavior that you want and you make it really tiny. You find where it fits naturally in your life and you nurture its growth. So again, you maybe stack it to an existing habit, and you do the smallest version of that habit. You make it super tiny, and then as you start to get used to it, it starts to become something that is truly a habit. Then you start to nurture its growth until it becomes what you want it to be. So basically, small habits can be great at reducing the overwhelm of trying to do everything at once perfectly, because that's just going to, again, fry our nervous system, overload our brains and our bodies. So rather, take small habits, make it tiny, find out what you can do, maybe stack it to something that already exists. The next concept is time management for your wellness. So again, instead of overwhelming yourself with trying to implement everything you hear on the internet all the time, ask yourself what matters most to you right now. So pick one of those pillars, which one is most important to you right now, and then find whatever you need within that pillar. Like maybe it's sleep and you don't sleep enough and you want to add 2 hours to your sleep. Do the minimum effective dose. So go to bed 10 minutes earlier. If that is the minimum effective dose that you can do, the smallest thing that you could do, that still gets you to your goal. So maybe you go to bed 10 minutes earlier for like a week or 2 weeks, and then you increase it to 20 minutes and then 30 minutes, and then until you hit that goal that you want to hit for the amount of time you're sleeping. Or maybe you want to be more active, you want to get more steps, start with a 10-minute walk, make it super tiny. Again, maybe it's a walk after dinner, that's 5 minutes, starts with 5 minutes, the next week it's 10 minutes, the next week it's 20, and then you're starting it in the mornings as well. Or starting with just 2 strength training sessions a week, meal prepping just for breakfast, just that minimum effective dose, the smallest thing you could do that's still going to get you to your goal. Find what works best for you in what you prioritize the most, and then stick to that minimum dose until you have the capacity in your life to add more. So it doesn't have to be everything all in all the way, That's how we get burnt out. That's how we get into the all or nothing mindset. Find what works best for you, what you want to prioritize, find the smallest version of that, and then add that into your routine until you have the capacity and you have the confidence to add more. And then the last concept is just understanding that different life seasons need different habits. So maybe you're in a really busy season with work right now, with maybe you're planning a wedding, maybe you're in school, prioritizing what you need in that specific season. So maybe it's sleep, maybe you just need like good rest at night, quick and effective meals. It doesn't have to be like you counting every single, like weighing out every single thing you eat and making sure you hit every single this and every single that. Just quick and effective meals. Maybe it's just walking, like getting your steps in. Maybe that's like the capacity that you have to do. Or focusing on managing your stress. I know that when I was working full time, I was working 8 to 5 and also planning our wedding, and also I was in my master's program. It was a really busy season of life, and I found what I could do. I did the same thing every day. Like my routine was the same every day. Like I said, I cooked in batches so that when I came home from work, I always had a dinner ready to just be heated up. I didn't want to have to cook like a fresh dinner every night, and that was not my priority in that season. Right now, honestly, that is a priority for me. I love to have a fresh made meal every single night, but in that season, it was not. It was too busy of a season to be cooking every night. I would make sure to get sunlight on my lunch breaks and go for a walk in the middle of the day to get sunshine, to regulate my circadian rhythm and clock, and to get my steps in. Those are the habits that worked great for me in that season of life and what I prioritized, versus maybe you're in a season that has more capacity. Maybe you can focus more on your gym goals. You can have like a really great program that you're sticking to that works best for what you are trying to achieve in the gym. Maybe you're doing more meal prep and you are being more meticulous with your meals, or maybe you're making fresh meals every night. Or maybe you're working on building your skills rather than just like managing your stress. You can kind of change that to I'm building my skills in your hobbies, in your health management, in whatever that looks like for you. Just being able to adjust your expectations of health along with your self-compassion. So giving yourself grace in the busy seasons, giving yourself grace in the slower seasons, and understanding what you are prioritizing most and what goals you want to reach. Okay, we've got some reflections to go over, and this is the time to, if you're on a walk, maybe just thinking about these things if you're driving in the car, or maybe it's time you get out your journal and you write down these questions, write down your answers. But starting off with nutrition, what food rules are creating stress for you right now? So what have you, whether you've heard it as a rule and you're implementing it in your life, or you created it yourself in your brain from what you've heard, what is a food rule that you're holding on to that you just need to let go of because it's taking away from your health, not adding to it? Next reflection for sleep and recovery is, are you prioritizing recovery? Is that something in your mind that's a part of your health? Or is that something you're prioritizing? And then what habit most affects your energy? What requires the most energy from you and what gives you energy? Just focusing on those things can help you understand where you need to show more energy, where you need to take more time to rest and relax. It's like what affects your energy the most. Moving on to stress, thinking about where in your life are you feeling overwhelmed right now? Is it school? Is it work? Is it trying to keep up with your social life? Where are you feeling overwhelmed? And then what management strategies can you implement to decrease that stress? And then what does your support look like? Do you have people that you can talk to? Is it your Bible time and your prayers, your support? Is it journaling? What support, what management strategies are you using to be able to work through that stress and not let it take a mental and physical toll on yourself? And then thinking about what is one sustainable habit that you want to build this week? What is something that you've been thinking about, maybe in those pillars that you've just been thinking about you want to start doing, but you haven't yet, you just haven't. What is one sustainable habit that you can build this week? I want you to start with that minimum effective dose, maybe pair it to another habit. Think about what which one of these concepts am I going to use to be able to build that this week? So that brings us to our call to action. Again, choose one of those pillars that you want to improve on for the next 2 weeks before our next episode. Just think about it, dwell on it. Maybe set a goal for yourself and try it out. Maybe it's a goal to use one of those concepts to build that habit. And then just remember that small changes done consistently matter. That's how you're going to get where you want to get, is using those small steps, those small action steps, instead of jumping all in straight away, doing that minimum effective dose and seeing what works best for you in your season of life. No one's journey is going to be the same as yours. What works for your next door neighbor might not work best for you. What works for that girl that you watch on Instagram might not be what works best for you. So find what works best for you, what you want to implement in your life, and what strategies you're going to use to do so. So I hope you enjoyed this episode today. Going back to the foundations, what really matters when it comes to holistic health. These pillars of lifestyle medicine is not something that people often think of in terms of health. A lot of people just think of diet and nutrition. Whoa, that's the same thing. Nutrition and physical activity. But there's so much more with your sleep, your stress management, your social connection. There's so much more that entails our holistic health. So I hope you learned something about that today. If you made it all the way through the episode, go ahead and head to my Instagram story. I'm going to be posting a question of, I would just love to know what small wellness habit that you're focusing on this week for our call to action. So that's going to be on my story with the question box. Go ahead and feel free to respond to that. And yeah, feel free, if you have any questions, feel free to DM me, comment on any of my Instagram posts. If you found this helpful and you think someone else might find it helpful, feel free to share it with a friend. And we've got a lot of really exciting things coming up, a lot of great episodes. And next week we're going to be looking at how to structure how to structure workouts for your personal goals, exercise selection, exercise order, all things strength and conditioning, and we've got a really great expert guest for next episode. So stay tuned for that, and I hope you learned something today and enjoyed listening. And I'll see you guys next time. Until then, live faithfully and be well.